So as North End have now played all our home matches in the Championship this season, I thought that now would be a timely point of the year to rank each set of away fans to visit Deepdale. Now we do this list every year, don't take it too personally in the comments down below, it's all just for a bit of fun, and at the end of the day, it's a very subjective list solely based on my opinion. I'd also be interested to know from you guys in the comments down below who's been the best set of away fans to visit your ground this season. 500 likes on today's video would be massively appreciated, but without any further ado, let's jump in. Now obviously I am a season ticket holder for Preston North End. Out of all our Championship matches this season, I only missed 2 of them in the league. So that was when we played Sunderland in the league, and I actually missed the Burnley game in the league as well. But fortunately, we also played those 2 clubs in cup competitions. So we played Sunderland in the Carabao Cup and Burnley in the FA Cup, and I did go to those matches. So for Sunderland and Burnley, I'll be ranking them based on what their fans were like when they came for the cup, if that makes sense. Well, the first set of away fans to visit Deepdale this season was Sheffield United, and I would have them in the A-star category. Really good turnout from the Blades. It was a Friday night kickoff as well, don't forget. They brought over 4,000 fans, got a win on the night as well, and was just a very good atmosphere from the away end. I think, especially considering they just cannot come off such a terrible season in the Premier League, where I think they only won 1 away match during the entirety of last season. Felt like a fresh buzz was going on around the club. Yeah, they made a decent amount of noise, and I'd have them in that A-star category. We then played Sunderland in the Carabao Cup in midweek. They brought over 2,200 fans for what was essentially Preston playing Sunderland's B team. I think they made 11 changes for that match. In the end, the Sunderland fans didn't have much to shout about as North End did get the win, but still turned out really well regardless. I'd have Sunderland probably in the A tier based on that game. Now, when we played them later in the season, I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night, they brought over 5,000 fans. Unfortunately, I wasn't in attendance for that game. I had to miss it, but based on their cup game, I'd give the Sunderland fans an A ranking. Made some good noise, I thought, in that away end. After that, we had the Luton fans visiting Deepdale. They brought just over 1,200, so a decent turnout from them. This was Paul Heckingbottom's first game in charge as well. North End managed to get the win on the day, beating Luton 1-0, so we didn't see any limbs from the away end, but for what they took, I thought they made a decent amount of noise, and I'd probably have them in the B tier. I think whenever you're bringing over 1,000 away fans to whatever game, and you know, especially considering the trek from Luton to Preston, that's not to be sniffed at whatsoever. Blackburn is next up. They did sell out the away allocation at Deepdale. Over 5,700 fans packed into that away end. What hinders the Blackburn fans in this ranking is the fact that the game against Preston fizzled out. It finished as a goalless draw in the end. First half, I thought the atmosphere was really good, both from the home and away end. There was plenty of noise being made, but the longer that game went on, it did just seem to fizzle out both on and off the pitch. But regardless of that, I'd probably still give Blackburn an A tier ranking. Like I was saying, first half plenty of noise, second half it dropped off a little bit, but I think that was just because of the game really. It just fizzled out into a bit of a bore draw. Jumping ahead to October, we then played Watford in a midweek match. They brought around about 550 fans, which for a midweeker trekking all the way up to Preston is not too bad of a turnout. Unfortunately for Watford, Preston sort of had it all their own way in this game. We beat them 3-0, and that definitely had a hindrance on how that away allocation in at Deepdale was feeling, but definitely not the worst fans to visit Deepdale this season. I'd give them a C, considering it was a midweek match as well. Over 500 fans making the journey. That's not to be sniffed at either. After that, we then played Coventry at Deepdale. It's worth pointing out as well, this game, I believe, was a 12:30 kickoff, which I think definitely has an impact on atmospheres and travelling attendances and things like that, doesn't it? But despite the game being on Sky, Coventry still brought around about 2,500 fans to Deepdale, which is a really decent turnout. I think had it been a 3 PM kickoff, they probably would have brought even more than that. We managed to beat them 1-0, but Cov, I thought, still made a good amount of noise from the away end. I'd have them at least in the A category. I do think if it was a 3 o'clock kickoff, they'd have brought a few more, made a bit more noise, maybe A star, but overall I'd have Cov in the A category. Definitely some of the most consistent away fans in the Championship. After that, we had Norwich during a midweek match. They brought over 700 fans to Deepdale, which is a really decent turnout, like I say, considering considering this one was in midweek. We were 2-0 up in this game and ended up drawing it 2-2. Some decent limbs in the Norwich end, especially when they did get that equaliser. Considering the distance travelled and things like that, a good amount of noise for the amount of fans they took. I'd give Norwich a B tier ranking in terms of their away fans this season. Not too shabby whatsoever from them. At the start of December, we then played Bristol City at Deepdale. They brought just under 950 fans to Deepdale. In years gone by, I've definitely seen Bristol City travelling in bigger numbers to Deepdale and making a bit more noise, but overall, the away fans that did make the trip, I thought left a pretty good account of themselves, to be honest. Bristol City won, I think, 3-1 on the day. A few dodgy decisions in that game, if I remember rightly as well, but for the Bristol City fans, I'd probably give them a B ranking. Like I say, I have seen them in years gone by travelling bigger numbers, but fans that did make the trip I thought were decent. After that, we then played Derby. This was a Saturday 3 PM kickoff. They brought just over 3,300 fans to Deepdale. Ended as a 1-1 draw in the end. It was two quite quick fire first half goals. Greenwood gave us the lead, then a few minutes later Jerry Yates levelled it up for Derby. I thought for the fans that travelled, they made a really decent amount of noise, and between A and A star for Derby, I'd actually probably say that they were maybe a cut above some of these fans in terms of the noise they actually made. They always tend to travel in quite decent numbers to Deepdale, and I thought they made a pretty good account of themselves this year as well. Later on that month, we then played West Brom at Deepdale. They brought just under 3,000 fans for a Saturday 3 PM kickoff, another game which ended up fizzling out a little bit into a 1-1 draw. Made a lot of noise in the first half, West Brom, but what probably didn't help them was the fact that this game definitely did fizzle a little bit as the game went on. West Brom all season really haven't had a great track record on the road, have they? And that's certainly no slight on their fans who are constantly showing up for them. Overall, I put West Brom into the A category, I think, for how their fans showed up for this one. In the middle of December, we then played Leeds United. They absolutely packed out the away end at Deepdale. This one finished as a 1-1 draw. Leeds scored with a last-minute equaliser. I think it did go down as a Jack Watmore own goal in the end, and definitely some of the best limbs that Deepdale have seen this season in terms of when Leeds hit the back of the net that late on to get back into the game. But if I'm going to be honest, I've definitely heard and seen Leeds being a lot louder in previous years gone by. I think there were quite a few moments of this game when we played Leeds where the atmosphere did lull a little bit. It is worth pointing out that this one was a Saturday 12:30 kickoff that was on Sky as well. Like I was saying before, I always think that impacts the atmospheres. Leeds fans were still very good, but I don't think they were as loud as they have been in previous years. I'd probably have them right at the top of the A category. Still very good, but by no means the best I've ever seen Leeds fans at Deepdale. After that, we then played Hull on Boxing Day. They brought just over 1,200 fans to Deepdale. Unfortunately for the travelling Hull fans, they didn't get to see a goal at Preston this year. We beat them 1-0, so didn't manage to get to see any limbs in the away end, but still decent travelling numbers. I'd have Hull in the B tier somewhere. I'd probably have Hull ahead of Norwich and Bristol City. Decent noise and decent numbers, but by no means the best fans that came to Deepdale this season, but still very solid nonetheless. At the end of December, we then played Sheffield Wednesday in a 12:30 Saturday kickoff, and once again, I thought they were very good at Deepdale. Not quite in the S tier that I have had Sheffield Wednesday away fans ranked as in previous years. I don't think they were quite as good as they have been in those times, but still some of the best fans to visit Deepdale this season. They absolutely packed out that away end. Lots of noise despite losing 3-1 as well. In terms of away fans, Wednesday are definitely some of the most consistent in the Championship, that's for sure, and a decent, very decent showing at Deepdale once again. In January, we then played Oxford, who brought over 1,200 fans to Deepdale, and really impressed by Oxford fans actually. I'd have them probably at the top of B tier. The game finished as a 1-1 draw, but those who did make the trip I thought made a decent amount of noise for themselves. It would have been quite a while since we last played them at Deepdale as well, won't it? So I imagine that was the first time that quite a few Oxford fans had come to Preston as well. Very decent numbers, 1,200 or around that point isn't to be sniffed at. After that, we had Middlesbrough, who absolutely packed out that away end at Deepdale, and I'd have their away fans in the A-star category this year. Once again, similar to Sheffield Wednesday, consistently they are always always among the best away fans to visit Deepdale. Despite actually losing 2-1 to us this season when we played them at home as well, I still thought their away fans were in really good voice. Massive limbs when I think it was Bergzog who scored in the second half for them as well. Always make a ton of noise, definitely among the best that came to Deepdale this season. After that, we then played Millwall at Deepdale. This game finished as a 1-1 draw. It is worth pointing out as well that along with this game being played in midweek, it was also a rearranged match as well because of Preston's FA Cup run. So understandably, not that many Millwall fans made the trip to Deepdale. I think just under 350 fans in the end. So it was the second smallest away allocation at Preston this season. For that reason, I'd probably have to put Millwall in the D category this season. It feels a little bit harsh, and had it been a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff, I'm sure they'd have travelled in much bigger numbers. Of course, the fans that did make the trip to Deepdale, they do their trademark meal, chant for ages and stuff like that, don't they? Not the noisiest of away fans to visit Deepdale this season by any means, but still full respect to everyone that did make that trip in midweek. After that, we then had Burnley, who we obviously played in the FA Cup. Now, I didn't go to the league fixture against Burnley this season, which just took place a few weeks prior to us playing them in the Cup because I was away for that game. But I was present when we played them in the FA Cup. Now, first things first, Burnley, you know, very respectable effort to sell out that away allocation twice in quite quick succession. But judging their away fans purely on that FA Cup tie, I'd probably have them in the B tier. I'll stick them top of B tier. Start of the game, the atmosphere was absolutely immense between both the home and away end, but quickly when it became apparent that Preston were on top, that away end fell silent pretty quickly. We were 2-0 up going into half-time, and then for the entirety of the second half, didn't really make a lot of noise, which is more than understandable, and especially when we made it 3-0 with 10 minutes to go, the away end was pretty much half empty. Listen, I'm sure Burnley fans won't really care about where they are on this ranking. They've just been promoted to the Premier League, for God's sake. But judging Burnley off the other side that sold out that away allocation this season, I'd probably say that Burnley, in the FA Cup at least, were probably the quietest. After hosting Burnley at Deepdale in the FA Cup, we then played Swansea in a league match. It was a midweek game. Swansea brought just over 200 fans. It was the smallest away allocation to visit Deepdale this season. The game ended as a goalless draw. I'm going to have to put Swansea in that D tier. It was just a bit of a forgettable experience, I think, for everyone involved, but fair play to every Swansea fan that did make that trip to Deepdale, especially in midweek. In the middle of March, we then played Portsmouth. This was a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff. They brought over 3,500 fans, so it wasn't the biggest travelling allocation to come to Preston this season, but in terms of noise, they were undoubtedly the loudest. I'm going to put them into the S tier. I think for me personally, the best fans to visit Deepdale this season. It's an absolute trek from Pompey to Preston as well, so take that into consideration, but constantly singing throughout the entire 90 minutes. They were quite unique in that fact, I think, as well. Even despite them losing the game 2-1, still in really good voice throughout the entire match. Limbs when they did hit the back of the net as well. For me personally, I would have them as the best fans to visit Deepdale this season. After hosting Portsmouth at Deepdale, we then played Stoke, and you know what? I actually think we got the two best sets of away fans to visit in sort of consecutive home matches, because Stoke, I'd also probably have in that S tier. I'm between A star and S for Stoke fans, but they brought over 4,000 fans in the end. It was a 1-1 draw. Absolute pandemonium when, I think it was Lewis Baker, wasn't it, that converted that penalty to level it up. But sheerly talking about the noise that came from that away end, I thought Stoke fans were absolutely brilliant when they came to Deepdale this season. They normally are really good, but that's arguably the best I've ever seen them. Really impressed with them this season, especially during a campaign that's been so up and down from them. I thought they were really good when they came to Deepdale. After playing Stoke, we then had Cardiff. This was a midweek match. Cardiff brought, I think, just shy of 450 travelling fans in the end. It finished as a 1-1 draw. A reasonable amount of noise for the fans that came. It was a midweek match, so you're not expecting them to bring the biggest of allocations either. I'd probably slot Cardiff fans into the C tier. The game finished as a 2-2 draw, and to be honest, the amount of noise they made when they scored in the 94th minute to level it up, I'd be tempted maybe to push them into the B tier. I'm floating between them two for Cardiff, really. Just for the limbs at the end, I'll give them a B tier, why not? Speaking of limbs at the end, that was also the case for QPR. They brought just over 1,000 fans to Deepdale, but were in really good voice, I thought. They ended up winning the game 2-1. They came from behind as well, scored in the last minute to win it. It was absolute pandemonium in the away end, and all of the away fans stayed behind after the game as well, when all the players came over, they were still making a lot of noise even when the full-time whistle had gone. I'd go as far to say that that's arguably the best I've ever seen QPR fans at Deepdale. I'd put them into the A tier this season. Really impressed by the amount of noise they made. And then the last set of travelling fans that came to Deepdale this season were the Plymouth Argyle fans. Considering that they had already been effectively relegated before kicking off against Preston because of the result in that Luton against Coventry match, they made a really good amount of noise in this game. They took just shy of 2,000 fans as well. They ended up winning it, only their second away match of the season, gave a really good account of themselves, and all the context taken into consideration, I'd have the Plymouth travelling fans in the A-star category, I think. They didn't quite bring the numbers of some of these clubs that they're alongside here, but obviously the journey's worth taking into consideration. The context of them having already been relegated and the fact that they kept on singing and backing their team throughout the entire 90 minutes. Really good limbs at both times when they scored as well. Yeah, Plymouth fans definitely have some of the best away fans in the EFL. And you know what? They probably deserved that away win at Preston just for the fact of how miserable it's been at times for them following their club up and down the country. But for me personally, that was my ranking of Championship away fans to come to Deepdale this season. A lot of them are quite close, to be honest, between a lot of the different categories. You could easily move some up, move some down. But from my own personal perspective, I'd say that's what I would go along with. As always, want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Who's been the best set of away fans to visit your club this season? Let me know. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.